Have you discovered the sinister secrets of the haunted night stairs? 7 terrifying tales revealed. Lisa never believed in ghosts, but upon stepping into her vintage home, that conviction began to waver. The enormous wooden staircase loomed at the back, whispering secrets through its creaks. Those sounds curled around her ankles like icy fingers, promising revelations that felt sinister, as if haunting shadows were dancing just out of sight. Mia and Caleb seemed drawn to it, giddy laughter spilling from their mouths in the dark, innocent yet chilling. Each night, shadows crept closer, breaking the delicate peace she'd fought so hard to build after the divorce. Was she imagining things? One evening, as dusk spread a blanket of darkness over Ohio, Lisa sat down for a moment of reprieve, only to be interrupted by a faint whisper more than just the wind. It was a voice, or perhaps several voices, humming just at the edge of her hearing, teasing her senses. They're just the quirks of the house, she told herself, shaking off the terror gnawing at her stomach. Yet the shadows flickered, and the laughter from her children twisted into something almost taunting. A chill danced along her spine as objects in her living room shifted slightly when she turned away. A cup she'd set down on the table was suddenly on the floor, as if the home itself sought to unsettle her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days wore on, a gnawing dread settled deep within her. Caleb and Mia's giggles echoed in the stillness of the night, pulling her from slumber as they crept out of bed, drawn to those terrible stairs again. What did they hear? She stood frozen, heart racing like a high-speed train, as terror unfolded around her, thick and suffocating as the cold air swirled in her home. One moonlight-lit night. She tiptoed behind her children, dread coiling around her heart as she caught sight of Caleb, standing on the 3rd step, eyes glossed over like they were clouds on a stormy day. The whispers rang out like a siren's song, each echo tainted with her name. Lisa, Lisa, they grew louder, more insistent, wrapping around her like creeping vines. A flood of panic surged within her, prompting her to run, to save her child from the pull of the abyss. In that moment of horror, her phone buzzed relentlessly, drawing her attention away from her trance-bound son. The message screen lit up with a warning from a number she didn't recognize. The stairs want them back. The darkness pulsed, her pulse quickening as every instinct screamed to get her children out of the house. But pain gripped her heart as she reached for Caleb, while a shadowy presence clawed at her mind, urging her to step back, to give in to the ancient evil lurking beneath her very home. Could she defy it? Could she reclaim her family from the grasp of those haunted night stairs? The shadows closed in, and with shaking hands, she inched closer to disaster, knowing the real battle had just begun. Lisa's breath quickened as she reached for Caleb, who stood frozen like a statue, trapped in a world of whispers she could not penetrate. No, 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 she muttered under her breath, the cold air thickening around her like a tangible force. The whispers aren't real, she told herself desperately. But the darkened corners of the room clung to the sound of her children's laughter like a noxious fog. Mia appeared next, her small frame emerging from the shadows. "Mama," she whispered, her voice fragile. The innocence laced with a tone that suggested she too felt the presence. Lisa's heart dropped. What were they hearing? Were they sharing the same haunting invite? With a raw instinct to protect, Lisa reached out to Caleb, the electric chill settling in her gut, twisting into fear. "We need to go. Now," she pulled at his arm. But at that moment, a low, sinister chuckle curled through the air, reverberating off the walls, drowning out her pleas. The sound twisted her gut like a knife. "Mama, it's so beautiful here." Caleb's voice was a soft lullaby now, breathing melody into the warning clanging in her brain. She felt her mind fracture at the replacement of the urgency she demanded from him. The child was lost to a trance, mouth-forming words she couldn't excuse. The once safe confines of her home had turned into a labyrinth of darkness. Every corner felt like an abyss, every shadow a threat. Caleb, snap out of it. Lisa screamed, but the words slipped away as if dragged into a void. No response came, just the low hum that vibrated with sinister intent. Panic surged, coursing through her veins as the chill deepened. She turned to look at Mia. We need to go to the kitchen. There are cookies, she blurted out, throwing an idea like a life raft, hoping to yank them back. But Mia merely giggled, the sound piercing through the thick silence like an ominous bell. Was she taunting? Just a few more steps. Mama, her voice drifted like smoke on a warm summer's evening, leaving an empty void where urgency once resided. Lisa squeezed her daughter's shoulder, thrusting her light warmth into the cold reality, forcing Mia's eyes to meet hers, snapping her back momentarily. The stairs, they want us. Mia breathed, the wide eyes shimmering under the pale moonlight. A sudden rush of weight pulled at Lisa, dread wrapped around her like the frigid whispers. The horror crept deeper, crawling under her skin. Stay here, Lisa screamed, heart now pounding against her throat, the world closing in. She didn't even recognize her own voice, morphing into a shrill wail as she darted down the corridor to the eerie mouth of the staircase. Come here, she shouted frantically, but the oppressive energy danced around her, urging her to descend fully into the shadows. Caleb, Mia, please. The shadows throbbed, dancing in and out of view, mocking her. Each step creaked and groaned, trying to entice her to join the lingering spirits. Lisa felt a thick force pull at her, as if the steps beneath pressured her to surrender, to turn back at the edge of some dark revelation. Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently once more, the screen lighting up with a single word, now. The urgency froze her in place, the room spinning around her. Lisa's instincts flared, tearing her away from curiosity into an animalistic survival. Without thinking, she lunged forward, seizing Caleb's arm, yanking him back toward the hallway. Run, she shrieked. But then she felt something grab at her ankle, a cold hand, a breath of air tainted with despair. In that instant, the laughter of her children morphed into a cacophony of despair as screams filled the house, towering over her frantic heartbeat. They had to escape the dark hold of the stairs. But could the ancient evil be left behind? Or would it pull them back, deeper into its insidious embrace? Each hollow creak of the staircase echoed the promise of a confrontation that waited just beyond the shadows. What awaited in that ominous abyss as she fought to pull her children away? What unseen forces lurked in the darkness, craving their return? As Lisa yanked Caleb to her, the cold fingers still clutched at her ankle, a grip that felt as if it could shatter bone. Please, she gasped, pulling harder, the darkness swirling like a tempest around them. She felt the icy breath of fear fanning across her neck, a palpable warning that they needed to leave the house before what waited in the dark caught up to them. Mama, I want to go back. Caleb whimpered, the trance beginning to break, but lingering like a fog. She could barely hear his voice over the increasing cacophony, the walls rattling as if the very structure was alive, groaning in unison with the whispers echoing the sinister promise of things that craved their return. No, she yelled, a fire igniting within her. We have to get out. With one final, desperate tug, she pulled Caleb free from the ghostly grip. At that moment, she could feel Mia step closer, searching for something in the shadows. Mia, Lisa shouted, her heart pounding against her ribs. Stay with us. But Mia was transfixed. The grim shadows whispered her name now, luring her with sweet promises. Just a little longer, Mama, she murmured, a smile twisting her innocent face into something unrecognizable, something foreign and horrifying. The house trembled again, the sound roiling like they were caught in a hurricane's clutches. The shadows grew thick, almost corporeal, swirling around them, reaching, beckoning. Lisa's instincts screamed at her. They couldn't stay. She gripped Caleb's hand tighter, her nails digging into his skin. We're leaving, she ordered, forcing herself to take a step back down the dim corridor. We're going now. A sudden blast of cold air swept through, chilling her to the bone and snapping Mia out of her reverie. Mama? She stammered, blinking rapidly as if awakening from a bad dream. With a quickness that betrayed her, Lisa seized her daughter's hand, yanking her forward. No. The low chuckle rumbled through the house again, rich with malice. Run. Lisa screamed again, her heart hammering against her chest like it wanted to escape, too. Sprinting down the hall, she pulled her children behind her, the darkness clawing at their heels. Behind them, the house groaned louder, the whispers now twisted into a riotous wail. The walls themselves seemed to pulse, the air thickening as dread seeped into their minds. Go, go, she urged, pushing her children ahead of her as they stumbled, their small feet echoing on the wooden floor like thunder. Her sense of direction was spinning. She needed to reach the front door. But even in her panic, she could feel the pull of the stairs behind her, a vortex summoning her back into the abyss. The living room lay just ahead, familiar and yet so very, very wrong. But just as they approached, the heavy wooden door slammed shut, a sound like a gunshot. A shiver coursed through Lisa as the air thickened, pressing against her chest. What is happening? She thought, fear dripping in cold rivulets down her back. Mommy? Mia's voice trembled, shaking Lisa from her horror. I can't see, just hold on to me. She barked, her voice breaking under the pressure. The whispers intensified, surrounding them with chilling promises, secrets of the darkness seeping into her mind, visions of what lurked just out of sight. Turn around. Caleb's terrified shout pierced through the fog of fear. Lisa pivoted slowly. Battling through the oppressive darkness, her children pressed tightly against her, hearts racing in tandem. What she saw made her blood run cold. Shadows, fragmented forms of what once were, hovered in the corners of the room. Their faces twisted in anguish, mouths moving in silent screams. They wanted her, wanted all of them. With a primal scream rooted deep in her gut, Lisa pushed toward the door once more, desperation propelling her forward. Let us go, she shouted defiantly, as if her will alone could break the dark spell binding them. But just then, a voice rang out, clear and chilling, slicing through the noise. You'll never leave. In that moment, dread closed around her, constricting her breath, and she stumbled back, already feeling the icy tendrils curl around her ankles again. As the shadows surged forward, shadows filled with longing and rage, Lisa's voice quivered with determination. You want to take my family. But even as she shouted, she could feel the darkness closing in, heavy and suffocating. Would she be strong enough to fight against the ancient evil? Or was the deep, haunting abyss pulling them back to its wretched embrace inevitable? The door glared at her like a sunlit promise, yet it felt impossibly far away. Would they break free before it was too late? Or would she, helpless, watch as the shadows consumed everything she held dear? The moment hung in the air like a thick fog, a suffocating blanket pressing down on them, as Lisa's scream faded into silence. Shadows slinked toward her, their forms stretching grotesquely, vibrant with an insatiable hunger. Caleb clutched her hand, his small fingers trembling, while Mia whimpered softly, her gaze darting between the figures that loomed, twisting and pulsating like a gathering storm. Push forward, keep moving, Lisa urged, trying to summon the fire within her, but each word seemed to dissolve against the looming dread. The darkness whispered promises, each caress teasing her sanity, ensnaring her mind with haunting visions. As if sensing her hesitation, a hand reached out from the dark. It was icy, deadened, brushing against her wrist with a delicate grace that felt profoundly wrong. Join us, it crooned, its voice a venomous lullaby. No, Lisa shouted, yanking her arm away. She couldn't let it happen. Not now, not ever. We're not yours. But the shadows did not relent. They swirled, dancing around the family, more insistent now. Lisa fought the urge to fall into their embrace, to surrender. She tightened her grip on Mia's and Caleb's hands, feeling their warm pulses, living reminders of everything she had to protect. Follow me, she roared, a lingering desperation boiling into determination. She propelled herself toward the living room doorway, willing the children to keep pace, her heart thunderous against the dread slinking around them. Just past the threshold, the hallway beckoned them with its murky unknown, an omen of both salvation and peril. They dashed away from the specters behind them. Lisa glanced back, fueled by a potent mix of fear and defiance. The horrific faces, once human and familiar, were warped into expressions of contempt and longing, mouths moving in silent screams that resonated within her bones. Lisa felt their pain clawing at her insides, inviting her to understand their torment. "Mommy?" Mia whimpered again, her voice cracking under pressure, the fear radiating off her small frame. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just a little further," Lisa whispered anxiously. The front door loomed ever closer but felt like it was moving with them, a mirage twisting against the backdrop of their terror. As they reached the stairs, the air grew thick, heavy with an odd putrefaction. It suffocated their breaths, weighed them down like concrete. With each step upwards, shadows clawed at their heels, shrieks piercing the tense quiet in an overwhelming chorus. The whispers grew into a horrifying crescendo like claws on wood, making her fingers ache to grip the rail. "I see it," yelled Caleb, breaking through the fog of chaos. The front door? In that moment of hope, Lisa pushed herself harder, their feet sprinting up the steps, racing against time as the figures below lunged forward, eager to reclaim their lost prey. But just as freedom shimmered ahead, something shifted. A real hand, not a shadow, reached out, grasping at her shoulder with a strength that felt human, yet wasn't. The familiar smell of decay flooded her senses, warm breath coating her neck with icy terror. "Stay with us," Lisa it whispered, and suddenly she recognized the voice. A chill sliced through her. It was the voice of someone she once loved and lost. "Mama!" Mia cried, her voice filled with anguish as Lisa turned. The spectral form of her mother stood there, gaunt and ghostly, eyes hollow yet pleading. "Why did you leave me?" It lamented, a tortured echo of their bygone days. Lisa's heart twisted. How could she abandon her own mother even after all these years? "Mama, please, don't." But another cry echoed down the hall, pulling her focus back to her children. The shadows swelled, stretching as if sentient, twisting their formidable strength around her. "Lisa!" Caleb's voice drew her back. She fought against the pull of her mother's spectral presence, every desperate instinct screaming at her to hold on to her past, while she was racing to save her children's future. "Enough!" she shrieked, shaking herself free from the haunting grasp with a fierce resolve. "I want to be taken, and I want to abandon my family." She abandoned the duality of grief and duty, launching forward toward the door with her children in tow. But as they reached the final step, the walls around them convulsed, groaning under the strain of centuries, pulsating like a beating heart. The door, once so inviting, now shifted and warped, a twisted visage of a mouth that opened and closed, mockingly, beckoning them toward its gullet. "You'll only replace her? Lisa, stay with us." It hissed. The dread sunk to the pit of her stomach. She had to act. This was their last chance, and as they lunged for the door, a blinding light ignited around them, a confrontation of darkness and light. Lisa screamed, a sound shaking the very foundation of their fears. "No, we will not be taken." But just as their hands grasped the doorknob, the shadows slithered across the floor, binding their feet in place. This wasn't the end. Something far more sinister was stirring in the dark. What waited just beyond the door? What new evils would they have to face? And would Lisa have the strength to confront the horrors that demanded to reclaim her? The doorknob felt slick under Lisa's clammy palm, resistance surging like a tide. She could sense the darkness writhing around them, coiling like serpents around their ankles, each shadow spitting venomous whispers. The faces of the lost twisted in agony, despair leaking into her resolve. "Mommy!" Caleb cried, his voice a haunting echo, raw with fear that clawed at her heart. "I can't move." Strength draining from her limbs, Lisa swallowed hard. "Just hold on," she gasped, fighting the suffocating weight of the darkness that threatened to consume them whole. The whispers raged, drowning out her thoughts, their echoes forcing her to question her sanity. "Stay with us, Lisa," they taunted. "You can't abandon us. You belong here. Get away from my kids," she screamed, her voice sharp enough to cut through the spectral chaos. She yanked at her arm, feeling the power of a mother's desperation surge, and launched herself at the door, twisting the knob with everything she had. It turned, but the door held firm, a treacherous guardian refusing to relinquish its prey. From behind her, a guttural growl erupted. An unseen force swept past her, slamming into Mia and Caleb. Fear flashed in the children's eyes, and in that instant, Lisa felt it, a visceral chill settling deep in her core, dark tendrils wrapping around her heart. "Mama!" Mia wailed, her small voice cracking like glass shattering in the wind. Don't let go, Lisa shouted, pulling them toward her, but the shadows tugged mercilessly, each one entwining itself with her children, pulling them back with an unnatural strength. No, not my babies. The words burst from her throat like molten lava, fueling her desperation. With one final push, she turned fully, eyes wide and wild. I want to lose you. The air crackled with defiance, her body trembling with intensity, ready to erupt. She forced her mind to focus, searching for the light that had once ignited her spirit, something to hold on to amidst the darkness. Caleb, she called, desperation in her voice laced with fervor. Can you listen to me? Try to focus on my voice. Just like we practiced. You can do this. Okay, Mommy. Caleb's voice trembled but remained strong. Imagine the sun, the warmth. Picture us there. With a surge of energy, she could feel it, the warmth of Caleb's memories, the rising heat of love and hope, pushing back against the cold. Suddenly, one by one, the shadows shrieked in chorus, their shrill cries a cacophony rising with the light. Feel it slipping away. They chanted, you cannot escape. But Lisa would not yield. She wheeled around, the light flickering in her vision, ripping apart the darkness inch by inch. As it spread, she felt the children clutching onto her tightly, their fear falling away like dead leaves. Together, we are stronger, Lisa bellowed, feeling the air rush with their collective will, an incandescent force pulsing through her veins. Just as they felt the shadows begin to retreat, the warped door cracked open. An agonizing wail erupted from within, belonging to the figures trapped behind it. You'll regret this. Their voices echoed, trembling with rage. Not today, Lisa spat back defiantly. Summoning every shred of courage, she pushed against the door, forcing it wider, drawing her children closer into the light. But just as they stepped past the threshold, a chilling voice sliced through the air. This isn't the end. Lisa, you will pay? The revelation sent a shudder down her spine. Unseen hands clawed at her soul, tightening their grip as reality warped around them. What awaited them in this new realm? Was the light truly safe, or did the shadows follow, waiting patiently to strike? The moment they crossed through the threshold, the light enveloped them, sharp and blinding. But as quickly as it came, the brightness twisted into shadows. Wisps of darkness stretched, twisting and turning like smoke around Lisa and her children. They stumbled into a large, open space, a hollow echo rippling as their feet hit the floor. It felt familiar yet terrifyingly wrong, like being stuck in a dream that had turned to a nightmare. Mama? Mia's voice quivered, tiny hands gripping Lisa's arm. Stay close, Lisa said, her voice steady, but internally, panic roiled. The room was vast, ceilings looming far above, and walls lined with peeling wallpaper that seemed to pulsate like it was alive. A chill crawled up her spine as the unsettling sensation of being watched enveloped them. Where are we? Caleb's small voice whispered, filled with fear, his wide eyes scanning the shadows. I don't know, but we have to keep moving, Lisa urged, giving one last look at the door they had come through, now shimmering ominously, as if it was both a sanctuary and a trap. They ventured deeper into the space, flickering shadows accompanied by the unsettling sounds of rustling fabric and whispering. Each step echoed, amplifying her heart's frantic thump in her chest. Lisa held her breath. The whispers mingled into a maddening chorus, echoing her doubts. You think you're free? You're never free, Mommy. Caleb gasped, pointing to a darkened corner. Emerging, shrouded in an impenetrable darkness, was a figure that felt like it shouldn't exist, a shadow manifested in humanoid form. A twisted face grinned, its eyes two hollow voids pulling at Lisa's very essence. It beckoned with a crooked finger, drawing energy from her fear. Join us, its voice dripped with honeyed malice, twisting around her mind. Get back, Lisa yelled, instinctively stepping forward, shielding her children. The entity loomed, a grotesque smile widening impossibly as if delighted by their terror. Mia buried her face into Lisa's side, whimpering. Lisa felt a surge of rage. This creature didn't scare her, it granted her power. You think you can take my family? Not today, she screamed, channeling the warmth she had fought so hard to protect. Suddenly, the brightness returned, But this time, it was more blinding, erupting from Lisa's body in a radiant shockwave that drove back the entity. It recoiled, its face contorting in an expression of pure rage. "You'll pay for this, wretched mother," it bellowed, retreating into the shadows, but not before hurling a curse. "You can't escape. You're already ours." As the room settled, Lisa felt new determination. "We will find a way out. Together." The children nodded, their trust refueling her resolve. Ahead, a glimmer of light cut through the darkness, a doorway that shimmered like a mirage. "Mommy, what if it's a trap?" Mia asked, clutching her sister tight. "We have to risk it, it's our only chance," Lisa replied, steeling herself. They approached cautiously, the looming dread tightening in the air. Just before reaching the door, whispers swirled once more, encircling them like a noose, heavy and suffocating. "You can't leave, there's more to discover, secrets buried deep." "Caleb, hold on to my hand," Lisa shouted, the urgency clear in her voice. They grasped each other tightly, the warmth of their bond pushing back against the oppressive whispers. But just as they arrived at the door, it vanished, replaced by solid, cold stone. The walls pulsed with the shadow's laughter, and Lisa felt despair clawing at her, threatening to drown them in darkness. "We'll find another way," Caleb said, tears glistening in his eyes. "Don't lose hope," Lisa whispered, feeling the darkness swirl hungrily around them. "We were meant to survive then." A tremor shook the space, a low groan echoing through the very foundations. A jagged crack split the floor beneath her, the shadows seeping through like a tide. "Mommy, what is happening?" Mia whimpered. The very air grew thick with the mounting terror. "Something's coming," Lisa said, heart racing. "We have to get out now." But as they turned to flee, the ominous presence returned, clawing into their minds, whispering frantically, "What have you unleashed? There's nowhere left to run. How long until the nightmares consumed them? Would they face them together, or would they break apart?" The shadows closed in, tighter and tighter, waiting to strike. The shadows coiled tighter, whispering their dark promises like a swarm of biting insects. Lisa felt the heat of fear prickling at her skin, encasing her in a suffocating cocoon. She clutched both Mia and Caleb, their small bodies trembling against her, as if they could sense the depravity lurking just outside their sight. "Stay strong," she whispered, though her own voice faltered amidst the chaos. The floor creaked beneath them, as if the very foundation of the room wanted to devour them whole. She turned toward the jagged crack. Searing panic clawed at her throat. The shadows spread like spilled ink, crawling upward, threatening to swallow them. There was a sickening difference in the air, heavy with the palpable weight of something monstrous closing in. A sound echoed from the abyss, a low, rumbling growl that vibrated deep within her bones. "You think you can escape? You'll join us soon enough," the voice dripped with disdain, echoing off distant walls, reverberating in her mind. "No, we will not," Lisa shouted, surprising even herself. She squeezed her children's hands tighter, bolstered by a fierce protectiveness. Each thump of her heart seemed to summon more shadows, more whispers. "Mommy, I'm scared." Mia's tiny voice trembled in the darkness. "Me too, sweetheart, but we're together. We'll find a way," Lisa replied, desperately searching the ominous room for any semblance of hope. Suddenly, the room quivered again, as if reacting to her resolve. Sections of the walls cracked, revealing glimpses of another dimension, a swirling chaos where faces pressed in, mouths moving in silent screams, eyes wide, filled with a torment that seemed to reach out for her. She stepped backward, shielding her children. "What is that?" "Mommy," Caleb cried as the gaunt faces peered through, clawing at the crack, their mouths stretching impossibly wide. "They want us." "No," Lisa yelled, defiance rising within her. "You can't have us." A renewed wave of light coursed through her, anger intertwined with love, pushing back against the encroaching terror. But the dim room pulsed with an insatiable hunger, the shadows retaliating by festering into grotesque forms, twisting into nightmarish shapes that danced on the periphery of her vision. "Secrets!" The shadows hissed, weaving a hypnotic tune. "Welcome the darkness. The truth is waiting." The light flickered again, an intense glow flaring from Lisa's core, but the shadows surged back, tugging at her edges, drowning the brightness in their taint. "Run!" Lisa shouted, Tearing off in the opposite direction, dragging Mia and Caleb with her, they fled deeper into the nightmarish expanse, navigating the undulating floor that seemed to shift beneath them. Every step echoed, reverberating with a dreadful thud. The whispers never stopped. You can't hide. The truth will find you. Secrets buried deep after what felt like an eternity. They stumbled upon a staircase spiraling upward, the treads worn down but still solid, as though they had been forged from another time. The shadows surged behind them, stretching closer, clawing at their heels like a pack of ravenous wolves. Please, not the stairs, Mia cried, looking up into the seemingly infinite dark above, dread etched across her small face. We have to take our chances, Lisa urged. They climbed together, moving fast, energy pulsing through their limbs as they raced against the shadows that chased with fierce urgency. Each creaking step beneath them echoed louder as they ascended, a countdown toward an unknown fate. Just as they reached the top, the last step erupted under Lisa's foot, crumbling into the void below. The children shrieked, the sound mixing with the shadows' haunting laughter, and Lisa barely held on to their small hands. I won't let go, I promise, she yelled, desperate tears stinging her eyes. And just then, the whispers turned into screams, chaos erupting behind them. The shadows seemed to pour freely, spilling over the edge of the staircase, frenzied in a terrifying dance. But at the edge of this darkness, a dim light flickered above, tantalizingly close but barely enough to quell the mounting terror. Mommy, we can't go back, Caleb cried, fear rippling across his face. They're coming, Mia echoed, trembling. Lisa felt her heart pound, torn between the unknown and the haunting grasp of the shadows. But there was no time for hesitation. Would they rise above the darkness, or would it consume them entirely? With every ounce of strength, she yelled, we move forward. Together, they lunged toward the light, the weight of fear propelling them. But as they drew closer, the ground under them trembled again, viciously. What awaited them could either be salvation or another nightmare. Could this be the way out or a descent into deeper darkness? The light flickered, almost teasing, drawing them in while the shadows roared behind them. Lisa's stomach lurched as they plunged into the glare, blinded momentarily. When her vision cleared, they found themselves in a narrow corridor, walls slick and pulsing. A putrid odor clung to the air like something long dead. Where are we? Mia asked, her face pale, eyes wide. I don't know, sweetheart. Keep moving, Lisa urged, her own heart racing with uncertainty. With tentative steps, they ventured onward, the corridor stretching endlessly ahead. The light flickered, illuminating bizarre carvings along the walls, twisted figures frozen in agonized expressions, blobs of darkness caught mid-scream. Lisa shuddered. How could so many faces exist in one place, so full of despair? Suddenly, a deep thud echoed down the hall. They froze. Lisa pressed the children closer, senses heightened. Did you hear that? She whispered. Caleb nodded, teeth chattering. What was it? I don't know, Lisa said, her voice trembling. The shadows at the corridor's edge seemed to deepen, twisting and writhing like dark tendrils waiting to ensnare their prey. Then, another thud, louder and closer. Mommy, Mia's voice cracked, and Lisa felt a wave of panic wash over her. They had to keep moving, but fear held her feet in place in that moment. She spotted a door at the far end of the corridor. That way, she shouted, pulling her children along. The door was old and worn, with rusty hinges that looked like they hadn't turned in decades. Lisa reached for the handle, heart thumping as the shadows surged behind them, screeching with rage. Open it, Mia urged, her voice edged with terror. Lisa heaved the door open, and they stumbled into a cramped, dim room filled with strange artifacts, a macabre collection of bones, stuffed animals with glassy eyes, and flickering candles that barely cast shadows. The walls were lined with old mirrors reflecting fragments of their terrified faces, twisting them into grotesque forms. What is this place? Caleb whispered, horror dawning. I don't know. Lisa felt nausea rise in her throat. She turned to face the door just as it slammed shut, cutting off their escape. The echoes of the shadows' rage vibrated through the air, coiling around them like a vice. The room felt alive. Shadows danced across the floor, whispering ominously. Secrets, revelations await. No, Lisa shouted, backing away. But the mirrors began to ripple, showing visions of their darkest fears. Lisa lost, her children taken away. Each image felt more real, more visceral, and her heart pounded, pushing her to the brink. Caleb squeezed her hand, his small fingers tight. "Mommy, what do we do? I don't want to be here." "Stay close," Lisa shouted, desperation clawing at her. An oppressive weight pressed down, making it hard to breathe. "We have to break the mirrors. Maybe that will stop them." "Break them?" "No," Mia cried. "We have to try?" Lisa looked around, her eyes landing on a heavy candlestick resting precariously on a nearby table. She grabbed it, and with all her strength, hurled it at the nearest mirror. It shattered, a pool of dark liquid spilling forth like ink blotting a page. The whispers turned to screams, echoing through the room, driving Lisa to smash more mirrors, Caleb and Mia following her lead. Each shatter sent a piercing sound slicing through the air, and with each piece that fell, the shadows shrieked and recoiled, their forms writhing, desperately reaching as if to pull back what was lost. "Keep going," Lisa screamed, fueled by adrenaline. But in the corner of her eye, she noticed something horrifying, a reflection in one of the remaining mirrors. It was her, but twisted, smiling with a wicked gleam in her eyes, one that twisted her stomach into knots. "Mom," Mia cried, pointing. "What's that?" "What?" Lisa turned, terror blending into confusion as she faced herself once more, realizing that this reflection was only a heartbeat away from consuming her. And then, the gaping maw of the shadows surged forward, eager for redemption, eager for blood. Lisa's breath hitched as the darkness enveloped her like a hungry beast, threatening to pull her into its depths. What truth lay beyond that last mirror? Would they unleash something they couldn't control? The darkness twisted around Lisa like a suffocating blanket. She could feel her heart racing, pounding against her ribs as if trying to escape. Shadows licked at her heels, pulling her down into their depths where the flickering light could not penetrate. Panic surged through her veins as she fumbled for the remnants of hope. Her children. "Mia, Caleb," she shouted, but her voice felt swallowed, devoured by the shadows. She twisted her head, searching for them, heart leaping when she saw Caleb's terrified face, eyes wide with fear. Mia was still at her side, trembling but anchored like a lifeline. Suddenly, a low growl echoed around them, vibrating through the very air, hungry and menacing. The mirrors shimmered, reflecting not just their forms, but an endless array of glowing eyes watching from the darkness, waiting, hungry. Each gaze felt like a pinprick, stinging their skin. "No, no," Lisa muttered, dragging her children back towards the far wall, the whispers thrumming louder. "We need to get out, we need to find a way." Caleb clutched her hand tighter, his small fingers cold and unsteady. "Mommy, they're coming closer." The air grew thicker, every shallow breath like inhaling a storm. Lisa's vision blurred as she took a step back. Something warm and sticky was beneath her feet. The floor pulsed with life, swirling shadows that reached out, tugging at her ankles. With a sudden jolt, she realized they were surrounded by remnants of shattered reflections that lay scattered, still cracked, glimmering like jagged teeth. "Stay back," she yelled, swinging the candlestick wildly, every shattered piece catching flashes of light and igniting more screams from the shadows. "We have to break them all." The mirrors began to quake as if alive, and more faces emerged. Lisa's twisted reflection grinned wider. It was no longer just a mockery, it was an invitation. For an instant, her heart faltered, and she thought, what if this reflection knew something, something she didn't? Or worse, what if it could give her the power to control the chaos swirling around them? "You have to break the mirrors," Mia cried. "Mommy, please." Lisa tightened her grip on the candlestick with the resolve of desperation. She lunged at another mirror, her movements fueled by instinct and raw fear. The glass shattered, but this time something different happened. A shriek, sharp and piercing, sliced through the room, and shadows screamed, their forms recoiling as if separated from a tether. With every shatter, the whispers turned into something more. Join us, become one." The shadows began to swirl faster, melding into a frenzied whirlpool of ink and screams, angry at their losses, hungry for vengeance. "Keep going," Lisa urged, her throat raw. She swung again, smashing various mirrors until cracks spiderwebbed across the walls. Each strike erupted in chaos, echoes bouncing back at her, a distortion of laughter and sorrow. In a moment of clarity amongst the madness, Lisa saw a flicker of something within one of the mirrors. It was a doorway that hadn't been there before, but one that beckoned her, suffused with soft, shimmering light. "Mommy, that one!" Caleb shouted. "Look, a way out." Her heart raced, defying the paralyzing grips of the shadows. "That's it. To the door." But as they turned, the shadows coalesced, swirling around them, forming a monstrous amalgamation, clawing and grasping like lost souls trying to escape their prison. The whispers crescendoed into a wailing chorus. "Don't look back," Lisa urged, pulling her children forward as they darted toward the glow. The shadows writhed, desperate to claw at their heels, aching to consume the last lights of hope. With every step, her resolve wavered, fear clenching tightly around her heart. Would they make it? Would the ghosts swallow them whole before they reached the shimmering door? Just as their fingers grazed the cool edges of the light, Lisa glanced back one last time. The twisted reflection of herself stood grinning, chaotic and free, extending a hand as if begging for her to join. The shadows lunged, and then everything went white. What would happen when the light swallowed them? Would it cleanse them? Or was it merely another trap waiting to ensnare their souls? The blinding light engulfed them, sweeping away the shadows with an explosive clarity that cut through the darkness surrounding Lisa and her children. For a moment, they hovered in a realm of pure brightness, as if the world had momentarily ceased to exist. Lisa felt the warmth envelop them, a soothing balm against the cold terror that had invaded their lives for so long. "Are we safe?" Mia's voice came out in a whisper, tinted with hope and wary disbelief. She clung to her mother, her wide eyes flickering with a mix of wonder and fear. "I don't know, sweetheart," Lisa replied, heart pounding with uncertainty. "But we have each other, and that's what matters right now." As the light faded, they found themselves in a vast, open field under the sun, bright and golden. The air was fresh and alive, filled with the scent of blooming wildflowers swaying harmoniously in the gentle breeze. Lisa blinked, the sights surrounding them too surreal after all they had faced. "Is this real?" she wondered aloud, scanning for any sign of the shadows they'd escaped. Caleb, still grasping her hand, ventured forward, cautiously stepping onto the soft grass. "It feels real, Mommy," he exclaimed, bouncing with tentative joy. "Look at the flowers." Mia let go of her mother's arm, inhaling deeply. "I think we're free." Her voice was tentative but sparkled with innocent optimism, bringing a smile to Lisa's face. Despite the ebullience of her children, Lisa felt a tug at her heart. The shadows could still be lurking, poised to return. That thought wormed its way back into her mind, scarcely leaving her, a persistent whisper. "We have to keep moving," she said, gritting her teeth against that pestering anxiety. They wandered through the field, soaking in the sunlight and fragrant blooms, their laughter mingling with the faint rustle of trees in the distance. Suddenly, a fluttering caught Mia's attention, and she darted toward a lonely cherry blossom tree standing majestically against a sapphire sky. "Mom, look!" Mia's face shone with excitement as she twirled among the petals showering down around her. "It's beautiful." Captured by the sight, Lisa walked closer, and her heart twitched as the overwhelming relief threatened to release the dam she had built within. It was enchanting magic woven in every pink petal, and for a moment, she reveled in that connection with her children. But a sudden chill gripped her spine, a whisper in the wind. "They're not gone forever," it murmured, sending ripples of dread through her. Shadows, not completely escaped, lurked just beyond her sight. "Mama?" Caleb's small voice pulled her out of her thoughts. "Why are you sad?" "Oh, sweetie," Lisa knelt to meet his eyes, warmth flowing between them. "I'm not sad, just thinking. But look at this." She gestured to the magnificent tree, and they gathered around it, a new grounding tether in this stunning land. But as they settled, an unease began to creep back in, a felt tension beneath the surface. It was then Lisa realized to truly escape the darkness, they needed to face it, not just flee. "Listen," she said, steadying herself, "that darkness might always be a part of us, but it doesn't have to define us." Her voice grew stronger, each word echoing with the strength of her resolve. The shadows fed on fear. But here, in this light, we can release it. Release what, Mommy? Caleb's brows furrowed, trying to grasp her meaning. Every fear we let linger gives them power. It's time to let go to break free of those chains. She stood tall as the truth settled into her heart, and suddenly, she felt lighter, like the burden of despair was being lifted. I'm not scared, Mia declared boldly, reminding Lisa of her daughter's fierce spirit. We're together, and that's all that matters. Yes, that's right, Lisa agreed, embracing her children. Together. Without hesitating, Lisa thrust herself forward, arms wide, and called out to the swirling shadows she feared. We're not your prisoners. You have no power over us. We claim our freedom. A wind whipped through the field, rustling the petals around them as if the very universe acknowledged her courage. The shadows responded, swirling violently at the edges of the field, clashing with the blossoming light. The struggle felt tangible, electric. Mama, Caleb cried, but Lisa squeezed his hand tighter. Just keep holding on. Her heart raced, confidence blooming as the darkness crashed against the golden light, scrambling in its futile attempts to retreat. Suddenly, a deafening crack rang out, fracturing the tension in the air. The shadows writhed, howling in anguish, losing their grip. One by one, fizzling shapes began to dissolve and retreat, leaving only the warmth of sun on skin and sweet scents of earth. Look, Mia exclaimed, pointing an incredible burst of colors shimmered before them, a kaleidoscope illuminating the sky. As past horrors bloomed into vibrant possibilities, pain and grief melted away, transforming into something beautiful. The weight had lifted, pressed down into the earth from which it would never rise again. Together they laughed, arms flung wide as they danced woven into the living tapestry surrounding them. Hope surged, filling every crevice of despair and loss. And as they reveled in the joyous freedom, Lisa knew the shadows would always linger in the corners of her mind, but the power would belong to her and her family. They would never surrender to fear again. The darkness didn't define them. Instead, it had forged their bond stronger. Together, they shouted in unison, a triumphant declaration of a love that had conquered the abyss. As they embraced the light with open hearts, the shadows fled into the recesses of forgotten memories. This was their moment, one of healing, of rebirth. A promise made together they would stand, always seeking the light. No more darkness would claim them. And now, it's time for you to step into the light. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us know you're with us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this powerful message of courage and connection. Let us spread the light together.